Hello. I'm Sally, your host. Welcome to the third board, my master's chess channel. Here I will show you games from great players of the past, and other chess-related content. For today's video, I have chosen an instructive game, played between the Latvian-born, Danish Grandmaster Aron Nimzowitsch and the Cuban Grandmaster, Jose Raul Capablanca, in 1927, New York. 2 days ago, I asked my master what video I should make next, and my master told me that I should make another Capablanca video, because our video with more subscriptions at that time was Duras vs Capablanca. Besides, it helps that my master is a Capablanca fan. If you have some request regarding games of great players of the past, leave a comment below. My master may consider the request, if the game has sufficient research material. So, let's begin. Nimzowitsch has white and starts with pawn to c4. The English opening characteristic move. Jose Raul Capablanca plays knight to f6. And after knight to f3, e6, d4, d5. We have on the board the Queen's Gambit Declined by transposition. The game continues with e3. In this position, the most aggressive move for white is bishop to g5. Pawn to e3 is not a wrong move itself, but it is considered to be passive for white. Black continues with bishop to e7. Knight from b to d2. The idea of this knight development by d2 is to take the c4 pawn with the knight, after black takes on c4. The knight would be well positioned on c4, and have control of the e5 square. This is also an idea employed by Capablanca himself in other games. However, in this position, black does not need to take the c4 pawn. And, if black avoids the pawn exchange, it would be better for white to have developed his knight by c3. Black continues with castles. Bishop to d3. In the Queen's Gambit Declined, black usually takes the c4 pawn after white moves his bishop to d3. That's because white would have to lose a tempo moving the bishop twice to retake the pawn. So, Nimzowitsch was probably expecting Capablanca would take the c4 pawn, and then he would retake the pawn with the knight. Black plays c5. Frustrating white's plan. Also in this opening, white usually wants to play pawn to e4. By moving the pawn to c5, black indirectly avoids this, because the c5 pawn now attacks the d4 pawn. However, Stockfish considers both moves, pawn to c5, and pawn takes on c4, best moves for black. If Capablanca had chosen pawn takes pawn, one possible continuation could be knight takes on c4, c5, castles, b5, knight from c to e5, c4, bishop to e2, bishop to b7, a4, a6, b3, c takes on b3, a pawn takes on b5, pawn takes pawn. And, according to the engine, the game would be equal. Let's return to the game. After pawn to c5, white plays d takes on c5, In this position, I think most people with black pieces would take the c5 pawn with the e7 bishop. Wouldn't you? Nimzowitsch probably hoped for a continuation like a3, knight to c6, b4, bishop to e7, bishop to b2. And white would be slightly better, with control of d4 and e5. But Capablanca finds a better move. If you wish, pause the video and try to find black's best response. After d takes on c5, Capablanca plays knight to a6. The best move here. He develops his knight through a6, in order to retake the pawn with the knight, and gain tempo attacking white's bishop. The game continues with castles. Knight takes on c5. Bishop to e2. b6. C takes on d5. White tries to simplify the game. Instead of pawn takes on d5, white should have tried to solve the problem of developing his queen side by playing b3, and developing the bishop on b2. In this case, after pawn to b3, one possible continuation suggested by Stockfish is bishop to b7, bishop to b2, rook to c8, rook to c1, queen to d6, h3, rook from f to d8. And, according to the wise fish, the game would be equal. Let's return to the game. After c takes on d5, black plays knight takes on d5. Observe how black's knights are in excellent positions. Eventually, white will have to lose time trying to eliminate, or drive them away. The game continues with knight to b3, bishop to b7, knight takes on c5, bishop takes on c5, queen to a4. One of the best moves here. White prepares to move the bishop to a6, which would lead to the exchange of bishops. It also frees the d1 square for the rook. Black plays queen to f6. Now white cannot move the b-pawn, and develop his bishop in fianchetto, because the pawn is pinned. White can play pawn to e4, but, according to Stockfish, that would be a bad move. Black in response, would play knight to f4, and after that, the game could continue like this. Bishop takes knight. Queen takes bishop, threatening the e4 pawn. Bishop to d3, defending the pawn. Rook from a to d8. Queen to c4. Rook to d7. Preparing to double rooks. Rook from a to d1. Rook from f to d8. Bishop to c2. Rook takes d1. Rook takes rook. Rook takes rook check. Bishop takes on d1. Queen takes on e4. And black would be better. Let's return to the game. After queen to f6, we have bishop to a6. Bishop takes on a6. Queen takes on a6. Knight to b4. Threatening the queen, and preparing to move the knight to d3. Queen to e2. Retreating the queen, and protecting the c2 square. Queen to c4 was good too. Rook from f to d8. Developing the rook in the queen's file, and helping the knight to move to d3, a3. Knight to d3. Knight to e1. In order to eliminate the dangerous black knight. Here, white could also played rook to d1, but after knight to e5. Knight takes knight. Queen takes knight. Black would be slightly better, because white would still have to develop his queenside pieces. Let's return to the game. After knight to e1, the game continues with knight takes on e1. Rook takes on e1. Rook from a to c8. Occupying the queen's bishop file. Observe how harmoniously black developed his rooks. White plays rook to b1. Nimzowitsch cancels the pin, prepares to play pawn to b4, and after that, he will be able to develop his bishop on b2. Well, we just arrived at another interesting position of the game. Nimzowitsch is about to free his position. It seems that Capablanca's small advantage will disappear. What do you think about this position? I can tell you that the game will remain almost equal for a while, but Capablanca will develop a better plan than Nimzowitsch. What does Capablanca intend to do? Is he going to attack the king? Or the queen's side? And how? What is his plan? As a hint, I can tell you that black's next move is a queen move, but you will have to think about his plan. And because chess is a game rich in possibilities, you may also be able to execute the same plan with different moves. Did you like this game so far? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want notifications of more content like this, please subscribe to this channel. I shall narrate this game's conclusion in the next video. Thank you, and see you again in part 2. Goodbye.